On the table in front of me, I have the Ape Labs Marble Pix wash. This is one of Ape Labs' newest, biggest, and brightest fixtures. There's a lot of chatter online in the forums right now about this particular light, mostly how does it do out in the real world? And today I have the answer. I took this out to a prom this weekend. I'm going to give you real gig footage, talk about my experience using it at that event, and then tell you some of the other things that I like and would change about this light. Let's get into it. So I've done a couple Ape Labs reviews in the past. We know what Ape Labs are known for at this point. Really nice workmanship, good engineering, battery power that lasts a long time, on the pricier side, but really nice built-in auto programs and control options for DJs who kind of want set it and forget it stuff. I've become a convert. I love their neon tubes. I love their uplights as well. The Marble Pix wash is a big, bright fixture. Like compared to anything else from Ape Labs I own, you can see this sucker is beefy. All aluminum construction, and it is bright. You've got 9 18-watt hex LEDs here in the display. These are pixel mappable. You can kind of see them. Maybe it's kind of washing out. This light is on 2% brightness right now, and it's still overpowering my camera's sensor. But those 18-watt hex LEDs have RGB, warm white, cool white, and a lime diode, and that's going to give you the other thing that Ape Labs is known for, really nice color mixing. Now, I'm just going to give you a brief overview. You can go read specs. I already mentioned the power, 9x18, 162 total watts, and watts is not a measure of brightness, but it does give you some idea of the output when you compare this to the other fixtures in the Ape Labs line. Now, the other standout point of this light is the wide beam angle, 150 degrees. So if you've used fixtures like the Chauvet Wash FX or the Eliminator Mega Wash, this is going to fall into that category. Big, broad, diffuse color for your dance floor or for your ceilings, but with onboard battery power. A massive, massive battery. We'll talk about my experience with the battery life, but they state that this guy will run for 8 hours at 80% brightness, which is the standard working brightness. Now, you can boost it up to higher brightnesses from there. They recommend only doing that for like TV or studio use, just because you'll drain the battery fast. You can use this light plugged in though. So if you want to run this at like eye-blindingly bright levels, you can. Even 80% though is probably beyond what most mobile DJs need. Now, just a couple other things to touch on here with the design of the light. Nice square diodes, which adds a bit of eye candy, which I like. On the bottom, you have this really hefty, thick bracket with fold-out lockable feet. So these, you can hear those click in. Nice positive retention there. And an M6 mounting hole on the bottom. I use these on top of some Chauvet flex stands, which you'll see in a bit. So you have dual functionality as far as ground mounting this or putting it on a stand or a truss or whatever. Now, on the top of the light, you have very simple ins and outs, something Ape Labs is also known for. You've got a single power button with a indicator LED around it that tells you your battery status when you're charging it. That will also give you some information there. There's another button over here for the wireless CRMX protocol. Honestly, that's beyond my pay grade. I didn't really use this because I'm using Ape Labs' own ecosystem, but this does have a professional wireless DMX receiver and transmitter in here if you want to dive into that realm. And then you've got locking power input and output, which is great to see in a fixture at this price point. Now, if I did have a couple suggestions to make, and these are my only critiques of this light for the whole video, one is for a light of this caliber and price, I would have loved to see some hard DMX, like 3 or 5 pin in or out, just because as a redundancy measure, if you're using this as part of a larger light show, I just like having some hardwire backup there as well. And then for the bracket, the clearance on the bracket from the light to the bracket is enough if you're using a small bolt. I was using a large wing nut to put this on those Chauvet flex stands, and there wasn't quite enough clearance. I could still angle this where I needed, but for more flexibility, just a little bit more clearance between the bracket and the light would be great. Now, we've talked about construction. We've talked about the LEDs that are inside, and you know, Ape Lab spares no expense with like the LED diodes themselves. These do not have flicker on your TV or your camera displays, which is why you're not seeing any flicker now. They're set up for that. It's got high color rendering index, so if you need to accurately accurately display colors. You've got all of that. So tons to love about the LEDs themselves, and the built-in color macros, if you're using the Ape remote or the Connect box, are fantastic. They've got warm whites, cool whites, pastels, candlelight, all the things that you need for your luxury events. Now, I mentioned the remote, so that's one way to control this. If you want hands-off, the remote gives you ability to group this into different fixture groups, control brightness, control speed of programs, select from the color macros. The Connect box, which is their wireless DMX solution, hooks into the app on your phone, and you can pick things for your colors and for your programs on there as well. There's also pixel mapping, fades, and programs like you're seeing on the light right now within the Ape Labs Connect. You don't have to use DMX to access the pixel mapping capabilities, which is really, really nice. And then lastly, you can hook this up to the CRMX, which I mentioned before, or you can use the Connect box as a traditional DMX transmitter to wirelessly transmit to this, and I think you get like a mile of range, which is crazy. So battery life, brightness, connectivity, control. Let's talk about how this thing performed at an event. So I'll overlay some footage. I got the opportunity to travel down and do a high school dance. It was a prom. It was in a basketball gym, very large area, 500, 600 kids. These were my sole wash. I put these up on the Chave FlexStand FX ILS. Those do have LEDs on the front. I would say that those LEDs are for eye candy only and not for a lot of dance floor wash, especially in a space that large. They maybe give you like 5 feet in front of the light. This thing was the powerhouse. I ran these at 60% brightness because I'll be honest, I didn't do my research. I was so stoked to get these out, and I was like, I don't want to drain the batteries while they're 10 feet in the air. So I ran them at 60%, which was still plenty bright. And then at the end of the gig, I looked at the app for the Connect, and they had 88% battery left after 2.5 hours. So I was too conservative. I definitely could have ran these at the full 80% or even 90%, honestly, for how short the gig was, and they would have been fine. But continuous use, all colors, all LEDs, using a lot of strobe with full brightness, 88% battery after 2.5 hours. So really, really nice, and happy with the battery life. The output was excellent. You'll see the footage. You know, if you've done high school dance, the brightness in the room is a huge sticking point for the administrators. They do not want it to be too dark in there, and sometimes if it is, they'll turn on auxiliary lights from the fluorescents or whatever. That was not needed in this massive basketball gym. No additional lighting. The only wash were these Ape Labs Marble Pix wash, and then a little bit from the Chave bars. That's it. So I would say that if there was any test to the brightness of these things, that is your testament. I own the Chave Wash FX, or I have in the past. I own the Eliminator Mega Wash. I would say that this is probably 90% of the brightness of those things, with the addition of a really nice battery pack on board. So who is this for? You know, if you're invested in the Ape Labs ecosystem, this is an awesome way to expand your toolbox to be able to do those larger events without having to put up 6 or 8 different par lights with their narrow beams. It's also great if you are someone who's transitioning your light show to battery and wireless, right? That's just the move these days. It was so nice to not have to run cables up the stands for these guys. And so if you're wanting to do that and you need a powerful fixture, and maybe you're not in the Ape Labs ecosystem yet, I still think these are a great purchase. Now, there's no denying this is an expensive light. $1,000 for one of these puppies. You can get a lot of other cheap lights, but for the price, you're going to get an IP rating. So use this outdoors in weather. You're going to get rock solid wireless connectivity, up to a mile of transmission with their Connect box. You have a super robust housing. You have great support for the product. You have a battery life that absolutely rocks. So there's a lot of things to like about this. This is a premium product, but I think you are paid off with premium dividends for sure. So if you want to read more about it, hopefully this video has been helpful, kind of giving you an idea of how this thing performs. I'll include links down below. You can go check it out there. Shout out to KPO DJ for making this video possible. These are awesome lights, and I can think of many, many uses that these are going to get over the coming years in my inventory. Really appreciate you watching the channel. If you liked what you saw, stay tuned. There's plenty more videos coming down the pipeline. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a comment with your thoughts on the light, and like the video if you enjoyed what you saw. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.